Alright, so if you haven't noticed by the title, today we're making seitan, my first attempt at seitan. What is seitan, you might ask? What is it? It is a meat replacement. I'm not sure if you can call it a meat replacement, but it's a form, it is basically just gluten. That's what it is, it's just gluten. And it has been around for a long time. The Buddhist monks in China, apparently over 1,000 years ago, developed this technique and to make seitan from flour because Buddhists are strict vegetarians. So they have found obviously different methods to be vegetarian. So yeah, one of these methods was to make seitan, which is just the gluten, and it's made. We are making it from wheat flour. I'm not sure what they made it from. Maybe they made it from wheat flour as well, because that's what gluten comes from. I haven't done 100% a lot of research on this, just bits and pieces to get me started. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We are going to be doing the washed flour method of making seitan, which is basically, again, the flour, making a dough, making gluten from the flour, and then washing out the starch and leaving the gluten behind, and that's what we are wanting. So yeah, that's what we're attempting to do today. Very interesting, and this should be, hopefully we can make some good, interesting meat alternatives. Because it's been around a long time, so let's get to it. All right, let's try and make some seitan. We're gonna need a bowl, and we're gonna need some flour and some water. I'm definitely gonna have to invest in some bigger bowls at some stage. This is the biggest bowl I have. Let's grab our scales. So we want 1,200 grams of flour, and I'm using up all the flour that I have in just random places. All right, I think we'll do half suts of everything. So we'll just do 600 grams instead. There we go, it's around 600 grams. These things are so useful, just clip them on. All right. Yeah, 1,200 grams of the flour, we do 3 cups. So we'll do 1.5 cups for half the amount of flour. 1 cup, half a cup. And now we mix, but I'm going to have a bit of a underlay or whatever you want to call it. Just a little bit of friction, and now we mix, and we just keep on kneading. Okay, we've been kneading for a little while in the bowl, starting to become quite incorporated now, but still more kneading necessary. There's still not too much bounce back, and it's not super smooth. So we're just gonna move our bowl and our stuff, and we'll start kneading on the table. We are just kneading, making the gluten, or something along those lines. I'm not super, I'm kind of intrigued to see how this will go. I don't have high hopes of how it's gonna taste like, but it would be interesting to know, and it's always good to try new things to make and be surprised. Finding new ways to cook. Alright, that's pretty smooth, and you can see there's a little bit of bounce back, which is what we want. Not too much, but a bit of bounce back. So that's probably good for the next step. And the next step after this, to get a bowl, put this in the bowl, and then we're going to rest it. But we are going to rest it with cold water. This filtered cold water basically covers it. And we'll just add a little bit more water. Like so, and we just leave this to rest for 1 to 2 hours. I'm going to rest for 2 hours, because usually for resting, I always find that it's always longer than the minimum amount they say. So I'm just going to go 2 hours because, most recipes say 1 to 2, so we'll just go with 2 and just let that rest. So I'll see you after it's been nice and rested. Okay, it's been resting for 1 to 2 hours, the dough, and now what we're going to do is wash away. We'll kind of rinse out the starch, a lot of the starch. Maybe I should do this in the sink instead. All right, so we're in the sink, just so we don't spill water everywhere. And we are just gonna kind of wash out all the starch and just leave the gluten. And apparently we can use this sort of starchy water for stuff. So I'm gonna be keeping as much of the leftovers as possible. And I'm not really sure how it's meant to be, because this is obviously first time doing seitan, so. But I know, we just wash out starch. So we'll keep this as our starch water, and I'll figure out what to do with this. And then we just keep doing this for a couple of go overs. So you gotta respect the people that found this out. Like the parents being a staple for Buddhist monks for thousand years or so. So you gotta respect those guys for finding out how to make a sort of, look at that. Look at all that stringiness. Okay, so this is probably about my 5th run through. The Seitan or gluten is pretty holding together in one spot, in like one lump or chunk, as you can see there. And the water's not completely cloudy and is milky. Looking like there's a little bit of, yeah, like you can see it's like a diluted milk thing. So we're basically, I think, at a good spot now. Just give it another quick rinse over. Yeah, so I'd say that's a pretty good spot. Like, there's still a little bit of starch in there, which I think is good. It's holding together its form quite nicely. But yeah, so I think we'll grab a colander. So yeah, this is the kind of what it looks like at the moment. Run through a few times to get a lot of the starch out, but still kind of keep some of it in to get some, I think, consistency and whatnot. I don't know, it just says don't get rid of all of it. I guess you can if you want to, but some of it's good for a bit of the texture. Let that rest for 20 minutes and then we'll come back and play with it a little bit more, I think. Okay, so we just let it rest for 20 minutes or so. So we've got a chopping board here. So the next step is to kind of stretch it. Stretching and shaping, I guess, is this step. And the main aim of doing this, now there's a lot of different ways to do this, but the aim of this step is to get the texture of chicken that a lot of people go for. They use a lot of different methods. So a lot of meat, what meat basically is just lots of strands of the muscle fibers. So fibers just kind of stranded together to form big muscular, and that's what meat generally is. So we're doing the same sort of thing with this gluten, with the seitan, is we are making that fiber and we're making the strand, and then we are making into like some knots to make kind of like, yes, stringy, stretchy, kind of like how meat is. And I'm going to try to braid it. So I think, yeah, this step, it's not too important. Like, this is just to get texture basically, from what I can tell. It's literally just for texture's sake, and I don't know how to braid properly, so I apologize if I oh no, I think I figured it out. I think we just want to make it as tight as possible. So yeah, the gluten strands is kind of, yeah, you can kind of see it's kind of stringy and in that aspect. But then this is just to make the strands into more of a rope-like substance, or yeah, rope-like texture, and then we'll add some knots to make it, you know, a ball. So we'll knot the strands, kind of squish that together, so we have a little bit of a braid going. And yeah, you can do this any way you please from what I can tell. And then what we do is we'll just knot this. So we've just made a bunch of strands and we're just knotting it to produce even more like different levels of different ways of getting texture. I think that's what I'm guessing. I'm literally just guessing, but it makes sense. It does make sense. You don't have to knot it. You can just have it as one thing and then just poof, fry it straight away. And there's different ways of cooking it as well. So there's steaming, simmering, frying. I'm going to be trying a slow cook method using the slow cooker. So this is vegan basically, and it can be vegetarian. Depending on what stock you use and depending on what ingredients you use, you can alter this to how you please. Since I'm an omnivore, or I'm more of a less meat sort of person, so that's why I'm trying this out. I'm going to be using some of the chicken stock to slow cook this. I'm going to see how that turns out. It's pretty simple to make this, so we'll probably have to try a few different recipes depending how this turns out, but it seemed like a good way is to just use slow cook to use up some of the stock I have. But also, before we get to this stage, you can also add seasonings to the actual gluten, which will, yeah, just, you can salt to garlic powder. You can just add all sorts of seasonings before you have it to this stage, before you actually cook it. At the cooking stage, you can add more seasonings. So I think it's just a big game of flavoring it to your please, while also forming the texture to be similar to a chicken. Yeah, this is a whole new world. I reckon this is very interesting. All right, so we have our bowl and we've got some stock. So we're just gonna cook this at a very low temperature for 2 hours. So not boiling. And I'm trying to overcook it because, like with a lot of things, if you overcook it, it just becomes a spongy mess, especially with things like tofu. But hopefully slow cooking it. Alright, it seems like we're not going to be able to get it that covered. Try and cover it. That should be enough. That's basically fully covered. Slow cook it for 2 hours. And I chose this way because it's very simple. I like to cook in as much as I do all these wacky, and I'm doing all of these wacky stuff, I do prefer to keep things as simple as possible, because simplicity means you can easily redo it, especially learning new recipes. You want to go for the simple things and then from there build on your skills. So here is the seitan after it's been slow cooking for 2 hours. So let's grab a... Okay, that was a bit interesting. So we grab a bowl and we're just gonna put it in here. We're gonna cover it with some of the stock and we're just gonna leave it overnight in the fridge. This is what it currently looks like. Doesn't seem like it's that cooked. A bit more cooked. It just seems like it's been soaking in hot water basically. But that's okay. We'll let it like that. So hopefully this has been cooked and sort of meshed together is my guess, although it doesn't feel like it. And then after resting it, it will become a bit more, yeah, I guess condensed. I feel like a bit tougher. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and pan fry it, and we'll just try it like that and see what it tastes like and see what the texture is like. This is what we're gonna start off today. We're just gonna use some stock. We're gonna let it rest overnight, and then we'll see you all tomorrow to pan fry it and see what it tastes like. So I'm pretty skeptical. Not gonna lie, very skeptical and have very low hopes. But if I can get a good starting point, and maybe I gotta do a bit of testing and getting at least the texture right, then all I gotta do is figure out the flavor. So it's been about an 8-hour sitting time. And I realized after doing a bit more research that this was actually meant to be a lot more cooked. So it appears that the slow cook on the low setting for me is basically just sitting in warm water. So it didn't actually cook, which is unfortunate. But, so this is just going completely wrong, I guess. I guess since it's not actually cooked as much as I thought, maybe we could steam it, but we'll try frying it at this stage. And we'll just see how it goes. We'll just see how it goes. All right, so we got this going, and it seems like now that some gardeners have decided to start working right outside my place. So yeah, that's really fun, and exactly what I wanted to happen. But the show must go on. I can't just wait for them to stop because I have other things I need to do. All right, we'll get some oil on there, nice and hot, and we're just gonna, pan fry this bad boy. It honestly does not look appetizing. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this does not look appetizing. So I don't have very high hopes at all at the moment. I feel like a lot of things didn't go to plan. So I'm just going with like a high-ish heat to try and get some more caramelization texture going. That looks looking okay, and kind of bounce back is similar to the bounce back of chicken, so I think we will call this finished and we'll give it a bit of a taste test. All right, here we have it, fresh off pan. Let's get some salt and pepper. So we've got our seitan here. It's got some nice caramelization, so the texture on the outside should be good. Hopefully the texture on the inside is also good, and we shall see what this tastes like. All right, here goes. The inside just kind of looks like a doughy bread, but we shall see. I mean, it doesn't taste too much apart from the seasoning. Like, it doesn't taste bad. No, it's weird. It's a weird, like, it's not quite, I haven't succeeded in getting that chickeny or that chicken texture at all. I haven't succeeded with that. And pan frying it in oil is basically deep frying with a bit of salt, so that texture is great. The actual sort of chicken texture, and it's a bit chewy as well. We'll check some of the inside bits. Yeah, the slow cooking didn't work out as intended at all. So this is just like just the inside, no outside. Yeah, not great. Not great at all. Oh dear. But that's okay. This is the first attempt at making seitan, and you can't win them all on the first go. And I think seitan's a very strange one to make. Like, it takes a lot of practice to get. I think we did well with the dough, the washing out. I think that ended up really good. And I think we just need to improve on like the first cooking method. So this was slow cooking. I don't think this slow cooker on low was right temperature. I probably should put it to high. That's okay. And then maybe also, instead of slow cooking it, a lot of people like to steam it. So maybe next time we'll steam it. But yeah, not great, not great. Not the best turnout, but it's not terrible. And I can see where to move forward. I can see why this is actually kind of kind of quite cool. So we're not there yet. This is kind of just a doughy mess. It doesn't have the texture of like chicken and fake chicken. The taste is not bad at all. Like it's just kind of a nothingness taste. So you can really see how you can sort of delve in with the and add extra flavors to it. But I can see how, yeah, this is a great, Seitan is a great extra proteins, different protein source. Pure gluten. I think I'll definitely try and improve it, and then I'll make an updated video with all my improvements and everything I've learned through research and trial and error. So this was just the first attempt. It's not the best first attempt, but it is an attempt. And when you start something is when you start learning. And the hardest part is to start. So that's what we did with Seitan Dad. That's enough. I don't really need to wrap it up any more than that. We tried, we failed. We just got to try again and keep persevering until we can kind of say that Seitan is great. So thank you all for watching, and peace out.